The controversy surrounding the registration of the Congress of Nigerian University Academics and the Nigeria Association of Medical and Dental Lecturers in Academics by the federal government is far from over. The Nigeria Labour Congress is demanding the withdrawal of the body's certificate with immediate effect. The NLC said their registration could not stand because it contravened the laws, which had been tested and affirmed by the National Industrial Court of Nigeria, the Appeal Court, and the Supreme Court. President of the NLC, Ayuba Waba, made the request in a protest letter to Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, citing Sections 87 and 98 of the ILO Convention and Section 3 of the Trade Union Act. Mr. Waba says CONUA and NAMDA are illegal unions and must be deregistered. Well, joining us via Zoom is the chairman, Enugu State Chapter of the Guild of Public Affairs Analyst of Nigeria, Ambrose Igboke. Ambrose, it's good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you people again.
Great morning.
Right. First of all, what's your impression of how the federal government has handled this matter between ASUU and itself, such that the Minister of Labour, the Minister of Education, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives had to come into addressing this issue?
Well, first of all, I'm disappointed in the way this issue with ASUU has been handled by the federal government. Remember, before ASUU went on this indefinite strike, ASUU has done 2 or 3 warning strikes over a period of 8 months to 1 year, warning the federal government that they want to go on strike. Let's resolve this issue. The federal government was playing hacky-packy with them. They were not forthrightly coming forward to say what they wanted. And the federal government, remember, when we go back time, we remember that the federal government has actually agreed with ASUU on some conditions, which ASUU is just saying implements the agreement we have reached. Okay, even when they went on strike, the federal government said, oh, this agreement we reached some time ago, we want to review it. They set up the Wale Babalakin Committee, which made this recommendation to the federal government. The federal government did not act on that. BRICS Committee, Professor BRICS Committee came on board, made other recommendations. It didn't act on it just because they wanted the committee to have a predetermined outcome, and they didn't see that. Therefore, they also said, we cannot go back to classroom because these are what they are fighting for are conditions of service, the conditions of our higher institutions. I don't know why the federal government sees it as a personal battle. I'm very disappointed at the Minister for Labour. He has not shown capacity. I keep saying it as a Minister for Labour. His temperament, his attitude, his aloofness is not befitting of a Minister for Labour. Because you are dealing with several, pool of intellectuals, you have a pool of professionals. You can't, this attitude of talking down on people, it's not about Chris Ngige as a person. It's about Nigeria. And so if he can detach his personality from his office, I think it will have solved this issue earlier. But because he's mixing up his personal ego with the functions of his duty as a minister, and that is why we are having these issues. A country that treats its class of intelligentsia, a class of intellectual with disdain, cannot move forward. We have seen that when we have seen this attitude by the minister when the health workers went on strike, when doctors went on strike. We have seen it when the court also went on strike. We have seen it so many times. And I think I thought he would be learning as he grows on the job, but I'm totally disappointed. ASUU on his own side has said, we will go back to classroom, implement an agreement. ASUU is not even asking for a new agreement. Implement what you have said you will do for what we agreed on. And even when you said you will review, ASUU said, okay, go ahead and review. Let's see. Recommendations were made. So overall, it was not handled very well. And this has made us a laughingstock once more among the Committee of Nations.
All right, Ambrose, the minister, in his own response, to a great extent, had said that the government had, attended to all of the issues that ASUU had requested. What was left was the payment platform, where there was the UTAS versus the IPPIS, and then the issue of the no work, no pay. That apart from that, all the other issues have been attended to from government. What do you make of that? Because it looks like the issue of UTAS and IPPIS is just an issue of ego and pride and things like that. Otherwise, if it's a payment platform, Nigerians believe that it's a technology where if you want some certain features to be incorporated, IPPIS and UTAS can be melted into one, having all the features that government wants and having all the features that ASUU wants. What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, ASUU denied the claim by the minister that all has been attended to. ASUU actually accused the minister of misleading the public. So it is both sides. It's apple to believe now. The minister saying something, and ASUU saying that it's not true. Now, when you come to the issue of the UTAS and the IPPS you have raised, ASUU had raised this issue like 2 years ago, saying that the peculiarities of the university system, it was not taken into cognizance. It was a pure, in the IPPS, it was a pure civil service approach, ending of the month to get your salary, and that is it. And, the university system is very unique, where, you have different kinds of things that come up, sabbatical, you have external, examiners, you have all kinds of things come up, and these people are paid for all these kind of things. Therefore, they were like, what do we do? We complained. But instead of the federal government incorporating this complaint, and as you said, technology, you can have an interface on their own for university lecturer inside the IPPS. But that was not done. And when the federal government did not do it, they came up with an alternative and said, okay, instead of complaining, we have come up with an alternative to say, look, we have a system that works for us. The federal government did an integrity test, NITDA, and ASUU said that NITDA scored it 73%, which is a pass mark. But now the federal government on its own side, which is also something to be considered, is afraid that they may have multiplicity of payment platforms for workers that is paying salary. That is understandable. So the fear is germane that when ASUU succeeds, another union may come, another people may come and say, oh, we also have peculiarity and the rest. Therefore, the federal government would have taken immediate action to have incorporated that complaint, uniqueness of the university lecturers into the IPPS. But that was not done until the issue escalated. And that goes to show why do we not do preventive strikes, preventive actions from making this kind of things happen. There was warning strike, around 2 or 3 warning strikes over 2 years. Nobody said that, nobody acted. They went on strike, nobody acted, all kinds of game. In fact, the House of Assembly Speaker, House of Representatives Speaker has to delve into the matter. A lot of people have to come into the matter. It doesn't need to be. And these are because of the quality of advice and quality of reasoning that the Minister of Labor is giving to the presidency. Because if he has had a better approach of, conviviality, a more approach of mediation, a negotiation, not talking that I'm your employer. His attitude that I'm an employer, you can't challenge me. It doesn't go well with that. Then the issue of no work, no pay. Also, as argued, that all the accumulated work, because it is a university system, it's not going anywhere. It has been static. The people that were supposed to graduate have not graduated. The people that were supposed to be examined have not. The people that are supposed to get admission have not. So it has been static for these 7 months. When ASUU goes by, they have argued that we are going to work on all the backlog of this before we can even move forward. Therefore, they're still going to do all the work. So it's not like a civil service situation where every month we're supposed to carry files around, and if you're not there, somebody does it for you, or it goes. ASUU is arguing that those backlog of work will still be done. Therefore, they are saying that work won't work, no pay, it's not justifiable because they're still going to do the work. And the argument is that, are you saying that if you don't pay ASUU over this backlog, that the backlog of students, for example, that are supposed to graduate will not graduate? That the people who are supposed to, supervisors will not mark thesis or project work of students? That the school will not mobilize for NYSC? So the work will be done. So we should just, this is ego on the part of the Minister for Labor to say we won't pay you. We will pay you when they will do the work. So it's left for us to do the work. The government can give them timeline and say for all the backlog, let's get it done by social time.
Right.
So they should pay them, and we should stop this ego trip.
Right. So now that the federal government, registered these two rival unions, and although NLC, that's the Nigeria Labour Congress, is saying this is a violation of its act, I wonder what message you think the federal government is trying to pass across with the registration of these two rival bodies.
The message the government has passed across to several unions in the country is that government is not sincere with dealing with unions. If government really wants to deal with unions, you don't go and organize them. This strategy of divide and rule, it cannot work in most cases. You are multiplying unions. The ones you have, the unions you have, you cannot even adequately deal with them. You cannot even adequately, manage them. And you are increasing the numbers of unions. So whose benefit is that? You are just trying to create problems for a government that comes after this government. And that should be discouraged. ASUU itself can take care of all the lecturers, all the shades of profession in the university system are taken care of by ASUU. So they may have their own small chapters and smaller splinters within the group, just like Nigeria Society of Engineers or some other people that have, cascaded down into minute professions. But ASUU is taking care of all the university lecturers. So when you are trying to create another one just to spite, because this action is just to spite ASUU, it does not contribute anything meaningful to the polity of university system. It's to spite ASUU. So at this end, where we are talking about reconciliation and way forward, somebody is trying to spite ASUU. That is why I'm saying about this aloofness and the ego trip of the Minister for Labour. We don't need it. And I think the presidency should be advised to withdraw it because the presidency has been misadvised by the Minister for Labour. The CONUA and NAMDA should, because if you are registering dental and medical association for lecturers, of course, the the engineers are there. Of course, the communication scholars are there. Of course, the accountants are there. And other shades of profession in the university system. Are you going to register each shade of profession as a union in the university system? Now we've tantamount to causing chaos. So we urge the federal government to retrieve this step and ensure that these certificates are withdrawn, just as the Nigeria Labour Congress has said, so that we can have peace and move forward. Elections are coming. These are not the kind of issues we should be talking about.
But some members of this association have said that ASUU is not really representative of their members.
Who are they? Are they not university lecturers?
They are.
Someone has been parading itself for so many years, and they were not recognized. How come all of a sudden they are recognized? Because ASUU is having issues with the with the Minister for Labour. So it's just an ego trip just to spite us. Are they not university lecturers? What university lecturers, that's ASUU is fighting for. If they get it, are members of this code are not going to benefit from it? They are. They will benefit from it because the university system will not segregate and say you are not ASUU member, you are ASUU member. It will go around everybody because the payment platform or the IPPS or the funding of research or the funding of patents in the university for mass production and for commercial purposes and all those kind of things will also affect positively those who are members or not, because the funding is going to be available in the university system. And if there is something about payments, it's going to also affect them positively. So it is not right to say that they're not carried along. Everybody in the university system, whether you agree to be part of ASUU or not, if ASUU gets something positive for university system, it affects others positively as well.
All right. We need to quickly go on a commercial break. When we return, we'll continue this conversation with you, Ambrose. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We've been speaking with Ambrose Igboke, who's been talking to us with regards to the NLC asking the federal government to withdraw the certificates of registration of the rival factions that was just registered. But NLC's impact so far with regards to the strike, how would you rate, their involvement thus far with regards to the strike? Yes, they are calling for the federal government to withdraw the certificates of registration with regards to the fact that it is a violation of their act. But have they really proven their mettle at addressing this matter as well?
I would score the NLC very, very low in the intervention in this ASUU strike. The NLC under the current leadership, I don't score it very high when it talks of intervention for workers. It has almost become a toothless bulldog, just making press statements from time to time. A strategic union like ASUU that affects millions of Nigerians who have their kids and wards in school, even though doing their postgraduates, and thousands and hundreds of thousands of families who are working in the university system. Because when the students are not on session, the university system almost grounds to a halt. So it's not even about the lecturers alone, it's about a whole system. And some towns and villages where the universities are located, the campus is the hub of the economic activity. So we are talking about a multiplier effect of economic impact, which is negative. Then NLC, a strategic union like us went on strike first month, second month, third month. NLC did not wait. I've expected NLC, TUC, Pengasen, and Nupeng, for example, to ground the country in solidarity strike and said, these things, give an ultimatum and said, this things must be resolved under 1 week. Flash a warning strike of like 3 days and said that if you don't do this, we are going to shut down. The government will know we are serious. But what did they do? NLC sat back as if nothing was an issue. Strike continued 1 week, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. You didn't do anything. It's in the 7th month. After the registry union, you now come out to say, oh, because maybe the registration of union will threaten the core existence of NLC. That is where they made statement. The statement that made that were very feeble. So by now, we expected NLC to, be very in the forefront of the struggle with ASUU, but they didn't do that. And so I must rate them very low on this. But it's better late than never. Now they have made statements, and we hope they are going to follow it with some level of impact and make sure that this strike is called off. We are hearing cheering news already that in a few days it might be cut off. So I think one of the issues is that if the federal government can quickly withdraw this registration for these strange unions in the university, then I think there will be light at the end of the tunnel. And then this work no pay. The Minister for Labor should ensure that those things are not on the table. These people should be paid. After all, it has been appropriated in the 2022 budget. So what is the big deal about it?
Okay.
Pay them. It's already
all right, Ambrose.
And let them do the work.
Yeah, Ambrose, we're trying to manage time. One would say, in the eyes of the law, it is constitutional for anyone to have the freedom of association. And if CONUA and all its members say that we have the right to register our union and become who we say we are, I wonder if ASUU has the right to tell the federal government to deregister it when the constitution gives them the right as Nigerians to associate under any kind of guise, so long as it promotes their interest or social and economic interest, as the case may be. But the question I want to ask here before time goes is the issue of autonomy of the university system. We have seen in other climes where there's some level of independence of operation, where universities operate without interference from government. Is it high time that we begin to look at those kind of dimensions in Nigeria, where the issues of strike is a thing of the past? I recall myself, I spent about over a year at home, because of strike at one point or the other.
Well, first of all, while people have a freedom of association to form associations, there are also laws guiding. You cannot form associations for terrorism, even though it promotes their interest to terrorize us. That is why some groups are proscribed. When it comes also to international labor laws and other labor things, there are laws guiding it. So it is not Uhuru. It's not that it's all commerce affair. There are categories of association. Then when you talk about autonomous funding for university, when you mention those countries like Europe and America, when you go back to history, you find out that those universities that are autonomous in Europe and the United States and some other countries we are using as examples, were heavily funded by their government for like 300 years, 200 years, 100 years before they got to where they are today. So when you talk about Oxford, for example, Oxford, they are centuries year old. It's an old school, Cambridge, all those schools you are calling, Elton College, call them Yale University, all those things were mentioned. They are old universities that are many years. The government funded them for so many years. We are talking about 200, 300 years. before they got to the level they are. So what ASUU is asking for, let us also invest as a government in our universities. By the time we invest and take university to a certain level, then we can now talk about university autonomy. But now we cannot, at the crass level, start talking about university autonomy when our universities even don't have the basics. So we must attend the basics. When we not attend the basics, and then we can go on there. For example, funding of education in a developing country is one of the priority values of any government. So we cannot be talking about, even the UK as it is today, UK is still funding universities, especially through foreign students. And that is why in their own local students don't pay the same thing the foreign students pay. Go and work out the math, you see it. So everybody has his own system that they are using to fund education. They didn't take out their hand totally. They involved the policy that the foreign student, a single foreign student can pay for 10 British students. And that is how they are funding it. And then loans. Students get loans, access to loans. The government give them money to pay for their fees, no matter how high it is. We don't have that kind of system here. So until we put everything at the same level, at the same baseline, that is where we can now say, oh, autonomy for university education. So let's do what others did. Then we can start doing what others did in terms of autonomy.
All right. Now, some lecturers who are within the university system say they are not members of ASUU. And when ASUU takes its own decision to either close down the school and all of that, it imposes on them what they don't want to happen within the university system. What happens to their own plight? Even when ASUU is fighting for the course of the education system, but others are saying, especially members of CONUA, they said that the approach where they resort to strike, they would not toe that line. In fact, we spoke to the legal advisor of CONUA recently, and he was saying that they want to use other approach instead of locking down the university system each time there are issues.
I don't believe CONUA. They're just trying to, be a voice to, suit the government and talk to God. You don't judge these people by the euphoria they are enjoying now. And these are the same people that will go on strike. Anything happens, because what has happened is strike is the last resort. It will be unfair to tell her that ASUU just goes on strike any small issue. No. Remember, this agreement has been signed. This agreement we are talking about is 2009. 2009 now is 13 years. And you are telling them that they're going on strike because of any little thing. No, it is not true. Negotiations upon negotiations have gone on. So this strike there was even where we were one strikes, as I said earlier. So this one was a final, action towards making government listen to them. Even at that, if government listen, we are 7th month now. We are still going around the book. CONUA will do the same thing and maybe even worse than ASUU. So let's not, I'm not believing this statement in the euphoria of the moment they are making, because the CONUA members also go to the same market as ASUU members. They also suffer the same thing.
But Ambrose, one quick question.
There are 400 students in a class.
One quick question, because we're out of time. Has ASUU shown patriotism thus far?
If they are not showing patriotism, why are they fighting to the improvement of the university system? That is the highest patriotism.
All right, let's leave
that you want value. You want value to be increased. You want education system to be standardized. That is patriotism.
All right, we'll leave the conversation here now. We must thank you, Ambrose Igboke.